Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? Welcome back to another video where I am going to have a little chat about something that Nikita mentioned on a podcast called Permadeath. Now, this has been one of the biggest things that I've seen a lot of people talking about in my chat. I've seen it on forums, I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen it everywhere, and the is far and wide. So in this video, I am going to go over what my interpretation of permadeath might be. I've read up on it a little bit. I have read what other people might think it might be, and I'm going to attempt to coherently explain my thought process and my reasoning behind what I think permadeath is going to mean for Escape from Tarkov. So before we get into it, let me preface this by saying that Tarkov is one of the hardest games that exists. It is very hardcore. It is not, catered to casual players. Now, that before you freak out, right? It doesn't mean that it can't be played by casual players, because of course it can, okay? It can. Obviously, I'm not saying that casuals shouldn't play it. Of course you can play it. But it just means it's going to take you longer to get from, point A to point B than, your feckin' most hated streamer who can stream 16 hours a day and get level 40 in 12 minutes and shit on you in factory while you're trying to fix your control boards. Sorry, moving on from that. Tarkov is a hardcore first-person shooter. Okay, it's a very difficult game, and at its basis there is penalties in the game for doing certain things incorrectly. Therefore, you lose your leg, well, you've got to use the surgery kit, you've got to put it back on, you got to fix your brake, whatever. You lose your thorax or you lose your head in a raid, well, you take one more point of damage to those limbs and you will die. Now, this is all in-raid stuff. These are in-raid penalties. So, for using a surgery kit, you now have reduced health on that limb. If you use a certain stimulant after a certain time, you're going to get trembles and you're going to get tunnel vision. Now, these are all very minor effects, in my opinion. They're very, very minor. There is very little, punishment for you pretending to be your local meth addict for sticking 18 stimulants in your arm in one raid, which is something that I am very guilty of doing. I use a Propital like every raid. I use an SJ6 almost every raid. I use green stims all the time. I used to use mules all the time. And my poor PMC has gone through some serious shit with me as far as injectors are concerned. Then, if you die, well, you leave the raid. All your limbs are, super low HP, and you've got to heal that up. So how do you do that? You either heal with therapist or you use a grizzly. And in my opinion, this is a very, very meaningless form of punishment for dying in raid. In Tarkov at the moment, there is a distinct lack of caring about whether your PMC lives or dies. Now, this is something that is mostly a problem for, let's say, people that have been playing Tarkov for a year, right? They've figured out how to play the game. They know how to level up correctly. They know how to get access to the good gear. They know what ammo to use. They know what gun builds to run. And they know, more importantly, how to make money consistently and quickly, which is just something that comes with time. So after a certain point in Tarkov, you can just kind of run whatever gear you want, whenever you want. And then, you do a couple of raids to make your money back, and then you're set for another X amount of raids. Now, within reason. I'm not talking about, oh yeah, I'm running T7s every raid with, slicks and hex grids and, a 400k M4 or HK or whatever the hell you're using at the time. And, spending a shitload of money on ammo. But Tarkov at the moment doesn't really have a method of punishing you within raid or out of raid. Like, what can you guys think of? Anything like super significant? And one of the solutions to this is that they're going to eventually add addiction to the game. Okay, so that means that the more you use painkillers, therefore if you go into a raid and you immediately pop an ibuprofen or you hit a golden star to give yourself X amount of minutes of painkiller, so you can run away if you get shot in the leg immediately without having to take time to hit an injector, or re-lubricate yourself with golden star. If you keep using these in raid, your PMC is going to develop not only an addiction, but also, I'm assuming, a tolerance, which is going to make the effects of the drug way worse than, normal. And they might come with additional side effects, if you keep popping pills. These side effects are going to persist not only after death, but also, these side effects could affect you for the next couple of raids. to the point where you really need to think about, okay, in this moment, is it worth taking these side effects home with me if I hit this green stim? You know, is it worth me using a Propital right now? And it'll really make you think about how you're going to use medication in the future of the game, which is one big thing, because medication right now is very, very overpowered. Stimulants are very overpowered. Healing stimulants are super overpowered. And there is absolutely no consequence at the moment for using them other than the minor side effects that I mentioned earlier. Now, Nikita also mentioned that there will be radioactive zones in EFT. So what these radioactive zones are likely going to be is potential quest areas where somebody is going to ask you to, hey, I want you to endeavor over here down this toxic tunnel filled with thrown away toxic waste, and I would like you to pick me up X item that happens to be down there and come back with it for me, and then, you know, I'll give you your next quest and you can move on. What the effects are going to be as far as, you know, getting radiation poisoning in raid, we have absolutely no idea. However, there will 100% be multiple ways to approach that quest. So you can either run straight in and grab the item with no protective gear and suffer the full consequences of being completely exposed to radiation, or you can go in there with the correct gear and you can wear some kind of, maybe there'll be armor or clothing or the respirator or something like that that will mitigate a lot of the radiation damage you take. Or maybe there will be some kind of medication in the future that you can take before you go in there that will give you resistance to radiation. You've got the quick way, and then you've got the long and expensive way, which requires prep. Now, you also need to remember that if you're going to go the expensive route and you take this gear in with you, because all this gear will probably be expensive, because everybody's going to want it, because it's going to be tied to a quest. And how you acquire it, we don't know yet. Or whether it'll even be available from traders. Maybe you'll have to go into a raid, maybe you'll have to craft it. And this could be a very, very consequential, you know, this could have big repercussions if you die, because you might not be able to do that quest until, you know, the next day, until you can craft more gear to go in and attempt it again. Because of course, it's not just going to be you in raid, it's going to be players, it's going to be AIs, it's going to be rogues, it's going to be raiders, it's going to be scab bosses, whatever. It could be a stray grenade fragment from across the map that does you in before you get your quest done. Now, from what I understand, when Tarkov does eventually get its single player mode, it is going to be the goal of, you know, escape Tarkov, right? And I think what was meant by Permadeath is that you need to make it through this campaign in order to get to the system that we have in place now for doing raids. It is like your starting zone, let's say, you know, your training area, which will teach you all of the mechanics that you will need to know in order to go back to the system that we have before. Now, how it's going to look, how it's going to play out, we all have absolutely no idea, but there has been some speculation as to how it will work. And I'm pretty sure that what Nikita meant by permadeath is that you can actually permanently kill your character to the point where you've basically soft-locked yourself whilst you're trying to complete the Escape from Tarkov campaign before you get to the raid system that we have now. It is going to require a lot of research, and it's going to require a lot of learning, and I'm assuming that when the Tarkov campaign does eventually come out, we are all going to have our shit pushed in, and we're probably all going to have to go through it multiple times in order to have a successful escape from Tarkov. Because if you can get through it first time, I'm assuming it's going to be, you know, somewhat similar to like a Dark Souls game, because Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro all have repercussions for dying. You lose your souls, you lose your blood echoes, and, you know, if you go back and then you die again before you get it, well, tough shit. All of those blood echoes and all the souls that you had are now gone. And then in Sekiro, you know, it's dragon rot. The Tarkov campaign is going to, obviously, you know, like permadeath is going to be one of the biggest mechanics, because you're going to be very worried about, you know, getting X amount of the way through it and then realizing, oh shit, I've given myself radiation poisoning. Now, before everybody starts freaking out, there's obviously going to be ways to mitigate, you know, taking on radiation damage. There's obviously going to be ways to mitigate the addiction effect, and there's going to be ways that you can heal your character. However, the problem lies in that, what if, you know, you get to the point where your character is so screwed that it might take you more money than you have to buy the medication that you need to actually fix your PMC, or whatever system will be in place. I'm sure therapists might offer some kind of radiation cleansing treatment, maybe. I don't know. Is it going to be based around, you know, what are your resistances and your stats? And are we ever going to actually be able to get to a point where just our raw PMC will be able to run through a radioactive zone without having, you know, massive repercussions based on our soft skills and stuff? I have absolutely no idea. But I think the main thing that I'm trying to say here is that I don't think Tarkov is going to get to the point where permadeath becomes a thing with your actual PMC after you have completed the campaign. I believe that it's only going to be a thing that will affect the single player campaign as a method of somewhat forcing you how to learn the game. And Bloodborne, in my opinion, is one of the most amazing games in teaching you how to basically get through the entire game just from the starting area. So the starting area in Bloodborne, it teaches you that there's multiple paths you can take. It rewards you for exploring. It rewards you for fighting enemies in different ways, and it rewards you in using the equipment around you. It teaches you how to use all of the core game mechanics in just that first area, and you are now basically completely equipped to finish the rest of the game based off the knowledge that you have accrued by playing through the starting area. And I think that that is going to end up being Battlestate Games' or rather Nikita's method of teaching the player. This is going to be your tutorial. The Escape from Tarkov campaign mode is going to be your tutorial, and I believe they're probably going to want it to be a very difficult experience, and it's going to be a punishing experience. And again, you're going to be rewarded for exploring. You're going to be rewarded for figuring out different tactics and clearing different places. And I think overall it's going to be a great learning experience for new players that have come to the game who don't necessarily want to just jump into the whole raid mechanic and be like, well, I'm here on customs. What do I do? Where do I go? You know, I've got to go find a bronze pocket watch. Where's that? Where's the key? Without opening 17 wiki pages, you know, on their other monitor, trying to figure out where to go and what to do. The Escape from Tarkov campaign mode is most likely going to teach you all of the mechanics that you're going to need to know. It's going to teach you how to probably rummage for keys, open doors, look for items, you know, scavenge from scavs, take ammo from scavs, you know, look at different calibers of guns, and, you know, how to mod your guns and all this other stuff. And I'm assuming that during the campaign, there's going to be like a somewhat of a hub area where we will maybe have a trader that will give us basic things. And then it's going to be similar to Lighthouse, I would assume, in more ways than one, where you can go into, you know, you can head off in a specific direction, go through a hostile environment in order to get to a trader who maybe sells you higher tiers of medication. But you're obviously going to have to brave the wilds and, you know, bring some stuff with you in order to barter for these items and bring them back to your hub world where your storage is most likely going to be. Now, I just want to, you know, finish this off by just saying, lads, this is all like wild speculation, okay? We don't know any of the details about this stuff yet. There is going to be a podcast, I think, relatively soon with Nikita, and maybe he will leak more details on it. But for me personally, I would rather he just say, yes, single player is being made, you know, we're X far to the way through, and just don't tell us anything about it. I think in today's world, we are way too spoiled with information before video games come out, to the point where we already know what to do when we get into the game, and we already know like major mechanics, we know major spoilers, we know way too much stuff. This is why I've not been watching any footage of Elden Ring for the most part. I've just watched like the trailers posted by the official site, but I haven't watched any reviews. I haven't watched any of the network test stuff. And because I want to go in and I want to experience it as me. I don't want to experience it as some prick from IGN who's already played it, and some dick from some other fucking forum called, you know, Kotaku or whatever, who is like, this is the most overpowered build. And then before you go into the game, you're already thinking to yourself, oh, I'll go get that. And then your playthrough becomes his playthrough because you're doing the exact same thing as this other person. So I'm trying to keep my mind clear of all this kind of shit. And I would just love for it to be a surprise when it drops, and just for the most part, just be like, ha, in you go, my friends, have fun. And then we as a community, as we progress through it together, we can all have a talk about it. We can talk about different tactics that we used, you know, as we're all experiencing this for the first time, which is, for me, one of the greatest feelings in video games. I know a lot of you guys probably know this already, but, you know, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, you know, Sekiro, some of my favorite video games of all time. And I love Tarkov for the way it just doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tell you, you know, a lot of things you have to figure out for yourself. And I hate video games these days that hold your hand and they non-stop tell you, hey, go do this, hey, go do that, hey, by the way, I'm reminding you every 10 minutes, by the way, you're gonna get this little notification that you should go and talk to this guy, you should go and talk to this guy, while you're off doing something to the side, trying to figure something out or look for secrets and stuff. And the game is just constantly prompting you, pushing you in the direction that it wants you to go in. You know what I mean? I hate that. And that's why I love Tarkov so much. And that's why I love the Souls games. And I know they're not in any way similar for the most part, other than they're very difficult and punishing games. I have a funny feeling that when the Tarkov campaign comes out with this permadeath mechanic and all of this other stuff that's going to punish us as players for making mistakes, it is going to be a very, very interesting time in the life cycle of EFT. And I think it's going to be a really fun time for us as a community to learn it all together. So, lads, I've rambled on for long enough. Those are my thoughts and opinions and my wild speculations. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens when it comes out, eh? Because as of now, we don't really have much more of an explanation as to what permadeath is. Maybe we're all completely wrong. Maybe we'll see. Who knows? But guys, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, subscribe. Check the link down in the description for all the socials if you want to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that other stuff. We put content out there all the time. And of course, go follow me over on Twitch, where I stream all the time Tarkov, and this coming weekend when Elden Ring releases, I'll be streaming a lot of Elden Ring. So lads, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, my dudes.